This is the 11th hour. With news, commentary, and answers to viewer questions from the Authorized King James Bible. Here is Pastor Greg Miller.
In part one of this series, debunking anti-Semitic lies as laid out in the viral documentary put out by Steven Anderson and Paul Wittenberg titled Marching to Zion, we showed that the term Jews is not reserved only for the descendants of the tribe of Judah, nor even for the Benjamites and Levites who belonged to the southern kingdom of Judah, but is a term used in the Bible and in history for all descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob was renamed Israel, and all descendants of all 12 sons of Jacob, known as the 12 tribes of Israel, are Jews. If you have not seen part one of this series, please do so before commenting or asking questions so as not to violate Proverbs 18:13. Now, this false claim about the term Jews was found not even 3 minutes into Marching to Zion. And predictably, they continue to build their entire case upon sand by regurgitating the myth of the so-called lost 10 tribes of Israel. Jesus warned about those who would build upon sand by rejecting his Bible truths in Matthew 7, verses 26 and 27, saying, "Such a man is foolish, and whatever is built upon sand, like this Marching to Zion documentary, would come crashing down in time. And the rains descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it." That is exactly what happens when any critically thinking Bible believer with discernment follows this video, Marching to Zion, point by point, and gives it the Acts 17:11 and 1 John 4:1 trial by truth. Listen to this oft-repeated claim by Jew haters of all stripes as it appears in the opening of the video, Marching to Zion.
Because of the wickedness of the northern kingdom of Israel, they were overthrown and taken captive by the Assyrians. The Israelites who remained became intermingled with the heathen nations who came in and occupied the land. These people would become known as the Samaritans, and the 10 tribes of northern Israel would never be a nation again. The southern kingdom of Judah would eventually...
The lie is subtle, which is what Paul says is a mark of the serpent in 2 Corinthians 11:3. But the claim is clearly made that the 10 northern tribes became Samaritans. They give no qualifying comment, they give no clarification, and that is what makes the statement a misrepresentation of the facts. The books of the Chronicles are believed to have been written by Ezra somewhere around 450 BC, and no one seriously dates them prior to 500 BC. By that time, the survivors of the Assyrian captivity and the survivors of the Babylonian captivity were making their way back to Israel, or Judea as it was called by the Romans. Only some remained intermingled with an altered form of worship and became known as Samaritans. Not all of the northern 10 tribes became Samaritans. Many, if not most, returned to be reunited with the rest of the Jews of all 12 tribes in Judea. The obvious biblical proof of this is found in the first book of Chronicles itself, in 1 Chronicles 5. The author, who we believe was probably Ezra, was writing at least a half century after the tribes had begun to return to Judea. But he mentions the fact that the majority of the members of the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh were still in Assyria, and he says, quote, unto this day, end quote. In other words, unto the time that he was writing, which was before or after 500 BC, somewhere around 450 BC. Now, if the northern tribes were all intermixed and all of them were called Samaritans, then this statement could not be true. But we know that it is true and is accurate, and that even after the regathering that preceded the first advent of Jesus, the tribes still existed and were still identifiable. Their records were kept in a part of the temple called the Hall of Records, and anyone could go and check those records, and that's how they knew that Jesus Christ came from the lineage of David through Mary, through David's son Nathan, and his adopted father Joseph had a legal right to the throne of David through David's son Solomon in Matthew chapter 1. So then, as we've shown in part 1, Paul makes reference to the existence of the 12 tribes in Acts 26:7. And he's speaking only a few years before the destruction of the temple in 70 AD.
The southern kingdom of Judah would eventually be taken captive into Babylon as a punishment for serving other gods, and the temple would be destroyed.
So it is true that the northern 10 tribes would never be a distinct nation again. But the implication that is clearly made in the video is that these 10 tribes were lost.
But after 70 years, the Jews returned to Judah, rebuilt the temple at Jerusalem, and continued to be ruled by kings descended from David. At the time of Christ, the nation of Judah had become known as Judea and was under Roman rule. Jesus Christ and his disciples preached the gospel throughout Judea, seeking after the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
You see, the appearance is given that the 10 tribes were lost. Only the southern tribe of Judah supposedly were called Jews, and that this is the historical reality, even though all 12 tribes were in reality present when Jesus appeared at his first advent. Notice how that the terms lost tribes and lost sheep are used interchangeably as though they're the same thing. You're being conditioned to think that whenever Jesus referred to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, that he was referring to the 10 lost tribes of Israel, which he is not. Did you know that the Bible never refers to the 10 tribes or the northern kingdom as lost? Go do a word search for yourself. You'll never find any references to any lost tribes in any King James Bible. Why? Because they are not lost, which is why Paul was still referring to them around 60 to 65 AD in Acts 26 as all 12 tribes were represented in what Rome referred to as Judea, and all 12 tribes and all those who belonged to those 12 tribes were called Jews. James addressed his epistle, quote, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad in James 1:1. Scattered, not lost. There's a huge difference. Then some years after the destruction of the temple, in historical records, we find Josephus, who wrote in his Antiquities, I believe it's Book 11, chapter 133, that he says, quote, the 10 tribes are beyond the Euphrates till now, and are an immense multitude, and not to be estimated in numbers, end quote. So there you have a post-70 AD reference to the tribes of Israel, and no mention of them being lost. The Bible never calls them lost, and history does not declare them lost. Only those with an agenda to demonize the modern Jew and the modern state of Israel have made such claims, and they have done so without biblical or historical warrant. So why is this important? Well, many of those who repeat these anti-Semitic lies do so because they want to prove that they or their race or their religious group are the true Israel. For example, in order for you to believe that white people are the true Jews, you must buy the lost tribes of Israel mythology and then accept that these tribes, or at least one of them, migrated north into the Caucasus Mountain region and became known as the Caucasians. Without this lost tribes of Israel legend, you couldn't have the Christian identity movement or the British Israel movement.
Censorship Among the Ku Klux Klan flags and white supremacy slogans, a small group of so-called white Christians contend they have been treated unfairly, that they have the right, like any other American, to worship how they wish.
We're not breaking any laws. We're not violating any ordinances. We're bringing the Word of God to people who want it, obviously, or they wouldn't be here.
Who are white?
Well, they're part of the chosen race.
Reverend Mel Lewis is the founder of Christian Identity Ministries. We wanted to know if he thought Bible...
Likewise, the black Hebrew Israelites must build upon this lost tribes of Israel legend in order to make you believe that these tribes, or at least one of them, went down into Africa, and that the African races, or at least one of them, descend from one of these lost tribes of Israel or from the tribe of Judah itself.
Who are the Jews? The Jews are the Negroes in America.
Oh, I see.
See, the Jews are one tribe of people.
I see.
That's where you get the word Jew from, the tribe of Judah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or the Negroes. But who am I?
You're an Edomite. What's your nationality?
I'm a what?
What's your nationality?
I'm just a person.
No. What do you fall on? You fall on the Caucasian?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you're an Edomite. You're an Edomite.
Where does the Bible tell you that? Where does the Bible tell you that?
It tell you the Genesis 25th chapter.
Are you guys against the war?
Do you want us to know? We will support the war.
So,
Heavenly Father is in control of the war.
Right.
What's
Right.
that?
So you claim that all 12 tribes of Israel are nothing but black people?
No, I did not just say that.
Okay, I'm listening. Who
I
are
said
they?
the 12 tribes of
Right
Israel
here.
are the Negroes,
Okay.
West Indians, Haitians, Dominicans, Guatemala to Panama, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, North American Indians, the Seminole Indians, Argentina to Chile, Colombia to Uruguay, and the so-called Mexicans. Those are the real people of God. Those are the real Israelites.
Was
That's right.
Was Jesus a Jew?
Yes.
So once you dismantle this fable about the lost tribes of Israel, then you have undermined one of the main claims made by groups who want to lay the further claim that today's Jews are frauds, which is the case being made by Steven Anderson in this Marching to Zion commentary and in his videos plastered all over the internet.
And of the household of God. So according to this scripture, we as believers are fellow citizens of Israel. He says that we were in time past foreigners. We used to be aliens and strangers of the nation of Israel. But now we've been made nigh unto Israel by the blood of Christ. And he says we are no longer strangers. We're no longer foreigners, but that we are fellow citizens of Israel. According to
Whenever you hear someone make reference to the modern state of Israel or to today's Jews and call them the synagogue of Satan, you are dealing with someone who has been indoctrinated with this notion of the lost 10 tribes of Israel, along with the idea that we have already refuted in part 1, that today's Jews cannot legitimately be called Jews unless they can prove they come from the southern kingdom or the tribe of Judah, which claim is false, because all 12 tribes of Israel became Jews in Judea by the time Jesus shows up at his first advent.
If you watch all these videos, I guarantee that it will be proven to you over and over again that the unbelieving Jews today are under the wrath of God. They are not God's chosen people whatsoever, but that we as believers have replaced them as the people of God, as the holy nation.
From there, you must spiritualize the 144,000 of the 12 tribes sealed in Revelation, and that error then leads to more error. Heresy begets heresy. And the next thing you know, you can't understand much of anything that you read in the Bible. And that's what you're seeing with all these YouTube preachers who are butchering the Bible, denying dispensations, replacing Israel with the church, and so forth. So you see how important it is to test every claim made by these anti-Israel groups and cults. Line upon line, fable upon fable, they build a massive wall of deception, and it must be taken down brick by brick. And we are just getting started.